Hello and welcome, my name is Trenton Hoshiko, and today's cinematography video is all about 2 easy and effective ways to double diffuse light for ultra soft looks. I gotta say it, I just love soft light so much. There's just so much you can do with it. It's usually very elegant, you can make it look like windows with curtains, it can give subtle shape to a room, it can shape people's faces, you can combine it with harder light on a background and get some very creative looks. There just is an infinite amount of things you can do with soft light. But what if you want it like really, really soft? Well, I have a go-to method that is a slightly cheaper and less gear-intensive one that is perfect for micro-budget filmmakers. For both the techniques I'm about to show you, we're going to start with a softbox to get our light source nice and soft without a whole bunch of extra gear, which helps keep stands to a minimum. Plus, softboxes are already a tad more efficient because all that excess light bouncing around inside is going to be directed through the front diffusion because that interior surface is reflective. For my lamp, I'm going to be using the GVM P80S, and for my softbox, I'm going to be using the Godot Octabox 37-inch model. I really like this cheap softbox, and I use it all the time, including for my key light in my little studio right here. I like the 37-inch model because remember that the larger the softbox or diffusion, the softer the light will be. I think this model does a great job of balancing a big and soft source with a really reasonable cost. If you're curious about it, I have an overview video for the softbox linked down below. Now at this point you might be thinking to yourself, but Trenton, I want it softer. Well then, let's add more diffusion to get things extra smooth and extra wrappy. Here's where the two versions will be differing in terms of complexity, quantity of equipment, standardization, and cost. Method 1 will set you back around $75, assuming you already have a lamp, 2 light stands, 2 sandbags, and a softbox. What we need to add to our kit is a 5-in-1 reflector for around $35 and a reflector holder bar for around $40. If you need the softbox as well, that's going to be around $35. First, we'll take the lamp and attach the softbox. Always remember to weigh your stands to reduce tipping risk. Then we can move on to diffusion number 2. Attach the reflector holder to the light stand. Place your sandbag on the leg before adjusting it further. And now let's open our 5-in-1 reflector. Here we're faced with 2 choices. We can pass the softbox light through the middle diffuser tool from the 5-in-1, or we can bounce the softbox light off of the white side of the reflector. The difference can be small depending on the space that you're shooting in, but reflected light off the white bounce might look a bit more like an environmental reflection and could be a little bit less soft than the diffusion because of the size relative to the subject. If you used a much bigger bounce, that effect could be reduced. You also might face more light loss through the bounce method because the light has a longer path to travel. The diffuser will be softer because the size relative to the subject, and with a shorter total distance traveled, may be a bit brighter. That being said, most of these 5-in-1 reflectors state that when using the diffusion, you lose between 1 and 2 stops of light. So ultimately, I think most people will end up having to choose based on the space they're shooting in and the exact desired look that they're after. For me, most of the time I do choose using the diffuser, especially in tighter spaces where there isn't a lot of extra room to bounce easily. So now we can remove the reversible cover to get out our diffuser. Then clip that onto your stand and place it between your softbox and your subject. To adjust your final softness, move the diffuser further away from your subject for a little bit less diffusion, or as close as you can manage if you want it really, really soft. I think this creates a great look for only around $75. It's actually really impressive for $75. And you can use this setup for many different types of scenes and many different types of spaces. Method 2 is going to cost you more. That just is a fact. But it gives you a more advanced kit ultimately with better standardization amongst your gear. However, the more is around $400. Once again, assuming that you have a lamp, a light stand, 2 sandbags, and a softbox. We will be adding a road rag kit and a C-stand to the equipment list. I like Westcott and Impact respectively, but there's many brands out there that provide similar options for varying prices and qualities. A 2x3 foot road rag kit will set you back around $230, but you will also be getting a net, a flag, and a silk, and all of the armatures, all of which are very professional, useful, and standardized tools, all in a convenient traveling package. If you want to get even softer, you could spring for a 4x4 foot silk, that's around $150, but that's going to be a lot more cumbersome to use and to transport. And a C-stand will end up costing you around $170, and once again, gives you access to professionally standardized equipment, which will be a benefit for your kit. So option 1 costs around $75 if you need to just buy the extra tools, or around $300 total if you need to buy everything. Or option 2, which is better for professional applications, costs around $400 if you just need to buy the extra tools, or around $585 if you need to buy everything. To use setup number 2, set your light stand and then build out your C-stand with a silk diffuser. So I'm putting it at approximately the same distance for the first one, just to show how it looks compared more directly to my reflector. So now here's the particular benefit of actually using the C-stand with the real silk as opposed to just the inner part of a 5-in-1 reflector, is that you can really manipulate this. The reflector holder bar just is kind of 2 clips. You can't really rotate it front and back, angle it, raise it too high necessarily. There's a lot more limitation, but here we can actually really affect how this falls on our subject. So let's give it a shot. I like top-down soft light, so I might do something like raise the softbox higher and then angle it down, allowing for spill around the subject and into the space. So as you can see, the first thing I did here was actually raise that light stand up, because before, with just the reflector holder and the inner part of one reflector, we were really only able to get it vertical. So the light kind of had to be a little bit more parallel just to the subject, head, lamp. It can't really be off angle, for different stylization. Now we can raise it up because we can actually twist the silk on the C-stand arm. This is the type of control I'm talking about with more standardized professional tools allowing for. I can adjust this angle to be exactly in line with the softbox, much like we had the diffuser, or not, depending on my desired look. By being able to adjust the angle of the diffusion silk, I can change the look, and I can do things like get it really close to my subject at a harsher angle. I can also make it so the light falling on the subject is even softer than what falls on my background and dial that in through the angle of the silk itself, rather than having just the softbox to manipulate. I really like the ability to further catch, diffuse, and modify the light via the setup. Plus, it helps keep your kit more professional and standardized if that's your goal. Let's do one more of these, just for fun, where we get this really looking top down. So with this setup now, it should look pretty different than what we were able to achieve before. We're really kind of pushing that top-down angle. For this space, it might not be exactly correct, but this is something to show how this could actually be used in a more useful way than just the 5-in-1 reflector. But if you can get away with more of a onward angle, not doing necessarily top-down or bottom-up too much, the 5-in-1 reflector is a really cheap solution to get something pretty similar to this, actually. Despite the differences in controllability and standardization, the results you can get here are fairly similar between these two options, which means that higher budgeted filmmakers don't have to sacrifice control, and lower budgeted filmmakers don't have to give up on this type of ultra soft light. With either of these setups, you can get your soft light sources even softer and start building looks around soft light in general. If you have questions about how either of these setups work or the tools involved or where to get the tools, please leave those comments down below and I'll see if I can answer them for you. You can also tell me, why do you like soft light? What about soft light means something to you artistically? I'm always curious to learn about what attracts people to certain looks. If you're a person who likes cinematography technique and low budget solution videos like this one, please give the video a like to help me with the YouTube algorithm. It helps me reach new viewers. You can also subscribe for upcoming videos about tools and techniques for cinematography, lighting, and micro budget filmmaking. For the products and tools that I've discussed today, you can find affiliate links in the video's description. These don't make your price any higher, but they help support me in producing these video lessons. For the places that I hang out that are not YouTube, find all my social media links in the video's description, alongside my subscription and tip pages like Patreon and Ko-fi, where you can find more resources for micro-budget filmmaking. Until next time, Go out there and make some art that only you can make.